Hey everybody, welcome to the Stash Report from the Stash Project. This is going to be a special preview show for the All Japan Model and Hobby Show that is going to be coming up here at the end of September. We've gotten pretty much all of the release information for this show. This will cover your fourth quarter, essentially, kits out of the Japanese manufacturers. We still are waiting on certain things like whether or not there will be additional information from Aoshima. There's quite a bit of stuff to go over. A lot of it is the reissue nature and some new part additions. Similar to the way they did the Skylines all summer long. We were throwing in like new front and rear fascias and new wheels and tires. There's a little bit more of that going on for the fourth quarter. Their release, news press release type thing said that they would be announcing additional things at the show itself. I believe this is primarily due to the fact that there is, of course, the new company we have talked about, Rocket Model, which is being headed up by the former head of Aoshima's International Sales Division. They will be announcing, or are expected to be announcing, two all-new automotive tooling, one of a JDM variety, the other being a supercar of some sort. If you know the history of Aoshima getting one-upped in relation, especially to this show, you understand why if they've got anything coming that would really be first quarter of 2018, that they're sort of hanging on to it right now. Examples of that would be when they decided that they were going to do their Toyota 86 Subaru BRZ kits. Tamiya jumped the line and did theirs. And you can tell because if you compare the two, the Aoshima kit is vastly superior to the Tamiya kit, which is a very odd statement to make in certain circles. And then the other example of that would be when they decided that they were going to be doing their Lamborghini Aventador. Fujimi went, ooh, us too, and they released one well in advance of the Aoshima kit. And a similar situation, you rush something to get it out ahead of somebody else, you tend to not have as good a product. And while the Fujimi Aventador and the Toyota BRZ twins are not necessarily bad kits per se, they're not up to the standards done with a little bit more patience and forethought. What I would expect if Aoshima does announce more things at the show itself would be, again, first quarter 2018, and would look for it to be more variations of existing kits in their supercar line, because the stuff that they've announced here is pretty much all JDM type deal. Something like a Aventador S, a Hurricane Performante, the Pagani Roadster, or Pagani BC, because remember, the Pagani kit, we know there's another version of the Pagani kit coming because there's parts in that kit you don't use. So at some point, there's another version of that kit coming, regardless as to whether or not it's the Roadster or another version of the coupe, if you will. And then, so I think the general gist of what I'm going for here is I think they're waiting to see what Rocket Model is going to do. I'm sure they probably know within the confines of, the industry. Everybody's there in Shizuoka. Everybody knows what each other is doing, more or less, before they announce anything. Only because they don't want to be like, hey, look, we're going to do this other version of the Hurricane. We're going to do this other version of the Pagani. And then, I don't know, Rocket Model drops a McLaren P1 or something like that, and all of a sudden, all of Aoshima's press goes because nobody cares anymore. So that's where that's at. And then we have the sort of the outlying players like BMAX, which is not an outlying player, but they're not a Japanese model manufacturer. They're in Macau in China. I would expect we will see pretty much a almost ready to go Volvo, because I've already shown the test shots and it's just a couple months later now, so the Volvo ought to be about ready to go. Maybe we'll see whether or not there's what the next version of the BMW M3 kit is, because there's supposed to be other versions of those, and I would expect there to be one more automotive kit outside of a new tool Volvo to drop before the end of the year. We've just recently got that Portugal Rally version of the T64 Celica, for example. Obviously, they just released the Brabham here. We'll talk about that in another video. But, this, the confines of what Ebro, the Zebro really doing this tow truck version of the Citroen HY that I've talked about briefly in the past. What's the situation with the DS21, the update to the DS19, because that finished model's been shown for like 6-8 months now. Are they going to release it this fall or what? and all that sort of thing. But we got pretty much everything for Aoshima and everything for Hasegawa for the rest of the year. And let's just plow headlong right into it here. So I'm going to tell you this stuff in the order that it's supposed to come out. Tentative release dates is, so take that for what it's worth. But Hasegawa, for October, they have a bunch of reissues that already existed. I'm pretty sure that we haven't talked about those yet because that's a Friday video type of deal. But this, specifically for this show, announced this, which of course was pretty much expected, although I don't think anybody expected it quite so soon. It's the BMW 2002 Turbo. A lot of people were very, very surprised to see this come so quickly. Usually there's about a 6 to 8 month gap between tooling revisions with Hasegawa's new tool kits. If you look at the Sunnies, they were all about 9 months apart between those three kits. The Suzuki Jimneys have been a little closer together with about a 6 month gap between kits. But be that as it may, I think this got released, or they're talking about doing it sooner because the demand was there. A lot of people wanted this to be the first kit. Hasegawa, of course, did a little bit of sneaky marketing, if you will, because there's a lot of people that want a 2002, especially a 2002 Turbo. By releasing the factory stock TII first, a bunch of people bought it because, oh my God, it's a 2002 and 124 scale. Hallelujah, praise your deity of choice. Now the kit that a lot of people would want. And I'm talking about people who are going to build mostly content of box, if you will. I mean, a lot of people that are going to get the 2002 factory stock version, they're going to, customize it, lower it, camber it, and stuff like that. Not just build it completely and totally factory stock, even within the confines of some of the Japanese club meetings that are on Facebook. Already seeing, customized versions of the 2002, and that kit's only been out for a few months. So, a lot of people bought into that factory stock TII that may have not bought one necessarily had it come after the 2002 Turbo. They would have got the kit they wanted, and they would have bounced out, as it were, of the series. So they got to sell a whole bunch of kits to a whole bunch of really, really excited people, and now they'll get to sell a whole bunch more kits of the kit that people really wanted in the first place. So really, it's like a 3-month turnaround between these two toolings. So it's kind of interesting to see that. In addition to, obviously, this being a modified tooling year, you get new grills here. You've got the new, obviously, wheels, and it looks like there's new seats involved because it's a separate parts run. Everything's all together on there. You have the over fenders and the front lip spoiler and things like that for obviously the 2002 Turbo body kit, as it were. And then here on the clear tree, you see the square taillights. This, of course, being a 1974 model, it has the different square taillights. It'll be interesting to see if they're going to do a separate 2002 TII 74 type kit with the square taillights, because if you recall, a lot of the parts to make the square taillight later 2002 TII are in this kit. Remember, it has all the bonus content with the later mirrors and the later bumperettes and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to package that all together into a separate release, or if you're going to have to sort of kit bash the two together. Or the other question would be whether or not the stuff for the 2000 TII factory stock kit, in terms of wheels and things like that, and the stock bumpers, obviously, because the 2002 Turbo doesn't have a front bumper to begin with necessarily, at least not an external chrome one. It's more of an integrated front fascia type bumper, to see if those parts are still in the kit to build it as a non-turbo later model TII, or like I said, it'll be a separate kit. Over at Aoshima, and these are pretty much all reissues, if you will, their stuff for October is going to be a reissue of the BNS Sports, or the BN Sports rather, F3 CS RX-7 and the Mazda Speed AZ1, the AutoZam, in the Tune model car lineup. The AutoZam was just reissued, 6-8 months ago, so this is just reboxing, basically. I don't think the BNS RX-7's been out for a few years. In the model car lineup, they're going to be taking their Nissan Cedric, Nissan Gloria Y30 Brome, which is a slightly different kit than the one they're going to be reissuing here in September, of the 430 Brome VIP hardtop. This is going to have new wheels put into it, new factory stock wheels, as this kit does not have them. It's going to be a combination kit again, where they're taking the Cedric and the Brome, which have been separate kits in the past, and combining them into one box. You have to build it one way or the other, but it's got that type of deal going on with it. They're going to be reissuing their Nissan Skyline R30 Turbo RSX kit. This is going to have factory stock wheels added to it. Another kit that didn't have factory stock wheels in the past. Also new decals. To more accurately represent the factory stock decal pattern that came with that car. And then they're going to be reissuing their Toyota 86 Trino Black Limited. I believe this also is going to have new wheels tooled for it to be specific to this trim level of car. I'm not sure this is going to have an engine or not. Traditionally speaking, their non-initial D kits don't have them, but although the Apex GTs did, so we'll wait to see what they're going to do with that as far as engines go. And then there's going to be wheel sets. These are going to be 19-inch wheels for October. There are the Volk Racing GTVs, the Super Advan V2s, your Volk Racing GTCs, and Wed Sport SA70s. So you're going to see that trend continue here as we go along, as these are just wheel sets that are going to be doing. In November, Hasegawa is going to be reissuing their Lamborghini Miura, which is the standard kit that is Super Veloce that they've had out for a while. This one is going to be modeled after the most recent of the Lamborghini factory restorations. You may recall they did one that was jade green 9, 10, 12 months ago. This is going to be after chassis number 5030, which is a gold Lamborghini Miura, which means the kit is going to be molded in gold. It'll be interesting to see if it's molded in like a metallic gold or sort of a, light brown, if you will, because metallic kits, you tend to have swirls in them where you can't really not paint them. The car itself is obviously gold is metallic in general, but it's more of a solid gold type of look rather than it being a metallic gold flake kind of deal. So it'll be interesting to see how that winds up being. They're going to reissue their BMW 318i. This is a kit that hasn't been around probably since the early 1990s, so we're going to trample some more Hasegawa kit value here. This is going to be molded in metallic blue, again, swirly plastic, because I have an original kit, believe me, it's metallic. That's the way the original kit was done, so it's just a reissue, basically, of the way the kit came in 1995 or 96. They're going to reissue their Toyota 2000 GT, venerable kit of the first Toyota sports car, as you will. This is going to have a resin figure inside that is sort of a 1960s style dress Japanese woman. So apparently the success of the little military kits they've been doing, the Jeep and the Kubel wagon that had the Eggplane Girls resin figures, has been enough that they're going to throw a resin figure into this. Otherwise, the kit's just the same kit it's always been. Reissue of the Jaguar XJS V12. This is the factory stock version of the Jaguar. It is right-hand drive because they modeled a British version of the car, so it only has a right-hand drive dashboard in it. The factory stock version of the Jaguar kits is much like the rest of the Jaguar kits. They were originally done in 1984, and they were most recently reissued in 2002. This is another one of these kits that goes for ridiculous money on eBay, so more trampling of the Hasegawa kit value. Your $70, $80, $90 Jaguar kit is now worth $24. It's going to be molded in red, in what they're calling wine red. I know, everybody's going to go, oh God, red plastic! Red plastic! Red plastic! Prime it, prep it correctly. Plastic doesn't leach through paint. It's an old wives' tale. You guys ain't using enamels anymore. Calm your tits. But again, full detail kit. It's just like sort of the TWR drag car, only really, really factory stock, obviously, or drag car, race car. And it's, very, very factory stock, very 1980s British Jaguar. They're going to be reissuing their those two kits we'll talk about on Friday. The one kit that is new, and this is a legitimately new tool kit for Hasegawa, this is going to be their big new tool for the fall, is this. This is a Honda Civic RS 1200, or 1200 RS. This is a first-gen Honda Civic. One of the questions I've always had for the longest time is, why the hell isn't there a first-gen Honda Civic? I also, go back 2 years and look, said when they did the Honda N360, the original kit of that car, because of course there's been 3 versions of it now, that the N600, which was a slightly larger wheelbase car, but basically looks like an N360, would be the logical next step to the tooling. And then after that, the N600 is what begat the Civic. And of course, the Civic, pretty much from Gen 3 on, granted the most recent generation you have to buy a Zoom on resin kit for, but pretty much from Gen 3 on, there's been a Honda Civic kits out of somebody. It's either Tamiya or Tamiya, Hasegawa, Fujimi. Somebody has always had a Civic kit, but there's never been a first gen or a second gen Honda Civic in 1/24 scale. There's been a couple in 1/27th, a couple in like 1/16th, and weird odd Japanese toy scales, but never one in standard automotive scale, if you will. Looking at this flyer, you obviously it just is showing you a whole bunch of pieces and parts that are 3D CAD at this point. I would not be surprised to see a built test shot at the show at the end of the month, because obviously to have it out by November, it's got to be more than just computer drawings at this point. Like every Honda Civic, like every Hasegawa tooling, expect several variations of this. I believe, I haven't really looked at the cars specifically, but I believe you could easily transfer this into a second-gen Civic. It might require a new body tooling, but as far as the chassis and the interior and everything, it's pretty much all the same size. I think the second gen might have a couple of different body lines than the first gen, but at any rate, fantastic. First gen Civic, people are, I'm thrilled because it's something I've always wanted in an odd way, especially, this is like a kind of a boring factory stock car, although the RS was the sporty version of it. But, it's one of those sort of gaps if you collect vintage, if you will, Japanese cars. Hasegawa, of course, has their vintage or the historic kit series. But really, there's, until recently when the Toyota AA came out, and now the Honda N360, the Honda, the Tamiya kit that I'm losing track of my thought of. What do we got there? The S600. Until, recently, there hasn't been a lot of vintage Japanese cars. It's something that, their history of cars, obviously, is post-World War II, rather than pre-World War II for the most part. And not a lot of attention was paid to older generation cars, so it's kind of good to see those things finally getting some love. And again, like I said, expect a bunch of different versions of this kit as time goes along through 2018, 2019. I've seen some people complaining already, well, this should have a left-hand drive dashboard. They exported the Civics here, blah, blah, blah. Yes, but they didn't export that Civic here, so that is going to be a JDM-only car because they didn't export the RS to the United States. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe one of those variations in the future is something that was exported out of the country. So got to just hang on and, wait for that. On the Aoshima side of things for November, they are going to be reissuing their Nissan Gloria Cedric Y31 kits. This is like the mid-1980s version, or I should say early 1990s version of the Cedric and Gloria. Again, separate kits in the past, combining the parts together to make one kit. They're going to be reissuing their Nissan UF31 Leopard 3.0 Ultima. This is the kit that's probably more commonly known as being the original Heroes car, in the crap, can't think of the series now, but it's the Smooth Criminal TV show. And they're going to reissue their Toyota Mark II Grand C Twin Cam. This is the GX 81 chassis. It's been reissued a bunch of different times. It's a kind of a motorized chassis with a engine insert. They're going to put new decals, new twin cam decals in it, because technically this is a different trim level than the last version of it. So we're splitting hairs, but it's a new kit, if you will, in that sense. I think the Ultima is getting new decals too, but nothing else. In the Toon Model Car series, they're going to reissue the Hilux Custom as a lowrider version, the more modern 1990s front-ended Hilux, as well as the Nissan Silvia S15 Roto style. I've seen one or two of these built up, but I can't find anything else about them. I think this is another one of the Drift 1 Grand Prix kits that does now not have all the livery in it. But beyond that, I don't see anything specifically like packaged this way with this name and stuff attached to it. So maybe it's kind of got some new parts to it, or like I said, it's one of the D1 kits that's just doesn't have any type of livery to it. In November, you're going to get 20-inch wheel sets, and they are the Leonhardt Orden, the Work Bersolagio Spoke 3MF, your Fabulous Genesis, which are VIP van wheels, and Kranze Brenzikina, or something along those lines. Yeah, I love it's a Japanese wheel using German names. It's fantastic. And then last but not least, in December, Hasegawa is going to reissue their Subaru 360. Uh, this in the 1964 Japanese Grand Prix T1 division, which is like the real low power Nakano box division, if you will. Race car kit. This has a resin trunk. So this kit hasn't been out for a really long time because it has resin conversion pieces in it. It has a resin trunk, a resin engine cover, and a couple other resin racing pieces included in this kit. But otherwise, it's pretty much your standard Honda N360. Otherwise, they're going to reissue their Mazda Cosmo. Again, a venerable kit for Hasegawa this time. This is also going to have a 1960s style, different dress, but still the same era, Japanese female figure with it as well. And then they're going to be doing another modified version of their Suzuki Jimny. So why not? This is going to be the Suzuki Jimny JA71 Turbo. Still a little K truck, this time with a little turbocharged engine, with I guess got it up to like 50 or 60 horsepower. This would be, technically speaking, a 1987 or ish type of deal. The original JA71 was in 1986, and then there was what they called a mid-season refresh that happened in 1987. You see here you're going to get new grill, obviously some new headlights, or at least the new fog lights to fit the grill, and a new front and rear bumper, and then the jazzy decal shown in that line drawing. So there is that for your little K SUV fans out there. And then over at Aoshima, in the Tune model car lineup, they're going to be reissuing their Subaru BRZ WRX concept kit. That has not come out since, I think, 2013 or maybe early 2014, when the original BRZ and 86 kits came out. This was Subaru did a what if WRX concept at an auto show, and they proceeded to make a model kit of it. Other than the wheels and some I think there's a wing to it that's a little different. I never had this kit because it wasn't a real car, and with the amount of stuff I have, I'm not buying concept cars, So nothing else to say about that, I guess, because there's nothing new about it. And then they're going to be reissuing their fabulous Nissan Elgrand. This is a older Nissan Elgrand than the Fujimi factory stock kit is. It's like a one generation earlier, but it's a VIP van. And then you get more 14-inch wheel sets for the month of December, and they are the Kaku Tekken Type 2, the Kaku Tekken Type 3, and then wheels are just listed as Bright and Excel, which I don't know who the manufacturer of the wheels are there. And the Tekken wheels are two more versions of the steely wheels that are deep dish with these big gumball tires that the 14-inch wheel sets come with. And then we get to the new tool kit for Aoshima here in December. This is not going to trip everybody's trigger. I didn't even know this car, to be perfectly honest, I didn't know this car, van, whatever you want to call it, existed until they mentioned this. This is a little sort of car-based van. It's more of almost like a station wagon, but it's a little too upright for that. Called the Toyota NCP 160V. Sexy name. And it's going to come in these two versions here. In the Pro box, which is the white white van-ish station wagon thingy with the steel wheels, and then the Succeed, or the Six-Seed, not the Succeed, but the Six-Seed is the blue one back there with full wheel covers. They're still hubcaps, but full wheel covers, and a little more up trim. Everything matches the body as far as the paint color keys go. These, again, they're showing 2014s on here, but this is a refresh that was done to these in 2014, so they are current models. Again, this is probably going to appeal to 5% of this audience, maybe even less than that. I want them. That steely wheeled Pro box will look great next to my high aces that have steelies for my dealership, idea that I have. But it's not a supercar. It's not a sports car. It's not anything interesting. Why these are significant in the sense of, as far as Aoshima goes, these would be the first all new car kits, normal car kits, stuff that goes into, be the model car lineup. Now, these would have been best car GT kits back in the day, all of 2 years ago, is that they are the first new toolkits that they've done since the 86 BRZ and the Subaru Sandbar pickup and box truck versions. There have been, of course, the Aventador is, I think Aventador is right about the same time, but you have the Hurricane, you have the Pagani, you have the McLaren, the long tail race cars, you have the Murcielago that was done. You have all of these supercars and all this stuff that was done, but they haven't done a Japanese car since 2012, when the 86 BRZ and the sandbars were done. So this is significant within Japan for Aoshima. As I said, these are the first new Japanese cars are done. There's a great big aftermarket following to these things. If you go and look on Facebook, there's a ProBox Succeed group all about lowering and we call slambering when you lower and camber a car. A whole slamber scene around these things. They said they 3D scanned these, so this will again be the first Japanese car they've 3D scanned. They've 3D scanned all of the supercars, but this will be the first time they've used that technology on an actual routine run-of-the-mill car, if you will. And then you have the whole situation where this kit will probably be done this way. And then the 2002 is when this car came into existence. It ran pretty much unchanged to 2014 when it had this facelift that they're modeling here. So expect, again, there to be a pre-2014 version of at least maybe... I would suspect they would want to do both a Pro Box and a Succeed again, but a lot of that will depend on how well which one sells, I would think. And then expect eventually there to be VIP tuner-style versions of those as well, because, again, there's a large aftermarket scene for these... taking a very mundane, redundant Japanese commercial van and turning it into something, style and cool, if you will, within the culture over there. So that, guys, pretty much wraps that up. Like I said, we expect stuff from Ebro. We expect stuff from BMAX. BNRC Bell Kits will have their Opel Manta. Should be getting pretty close to going into production as well. So do they have anything else coming that they want to talk about? There's still one stock number that doesn't have a kit attached to it as far as their stock number system goes. And then Fujimi doesn't go to the show, and they pretty much blown their wad on the Porsche kit anyway. And then, be nice to see what rocket model actually does. The idea of a JDM car, could be historic, could be modern, could be anything. One thing you don't see a lot of out of the Japanese manufacturers is redoing of existing content. If you look at American manufacturers, well, there's 4 1957 tools. There's 2 at AMT and 2 at Revell. All of the Tri-5 kits, for the most part, are redos of things that have been done in the past as far as Revell goes. There's the 69 Charger and the 67 Charger that were done by MPC, which were, of course, redone by Revell. One of them, both in like the 90s and early 2000s. American manufacturers aren't hesitant to go, that's a subpar effort, we're going to make a new one. Japanese manufacturers, unless they're rescaling a kit, basically taking it from 127th, 128th, 122nd, or whatever, some oddball made-up scale that involved, taking a toy, breaking it into a motorized model, and selling it that way, have never really gone back and taken a model kit that's been done in the past and redoing it. There's a lot of that 1980s, 1970s, skylines where there are, on motorized tooling with average bodies. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could be done, so it'd be nice to see what rocket model is going to be doing specifically. That's sort of the kind of thing. And then, like I said, it'd be nice to see if Aoshima announces anything for the first quarter, because the other thing to consider is when you're looking at the show, there isn't another major show until May, when Shizuoka comes around next year. They could announce some things at Nuremberg in February, but by the time February comes around, that's the middle of February. January kits have to be out by then. The February kits would have to be out, announced and be in production by then. And you're looking at March, April, in that range. So there has to be at least a little bit of work going on the first quarter 2018 stuff that would come out before the Shizuoka Hobby Show comes out in May. So speculate. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed it. There's a look at what you should expect for the fourth quarter. We, of course, when the show comes around at the end of the month, we'll have as many pictures of these things as we can find, and we'll see you guys on the other side.